It's my pleasure, and welcome to all of you. I'm Tami Sims. I'm from BPW St. Petersburg-Pinellas, and I am truly pleased to be your moderator for this panel, which promises to focus on lessons learned from starting a new business by those who've done it. So please welcome our panelists, Cassandra Clark from BPW Upper Keys.
Hello.
Jennifer, oh,
No, you're
not
good.
quite yet. Jennifer Lindley from BPW St. Petersburg-Pinellas, and Wendy White from BPW North Sarasota.
Hello, everyone.
So I hope that you've all taken the time to read their bios because we could not have more diverse perspectives and experiences from just three individuals who each have a wide array of experiences from brick and mortar, mobile businesses, not-for-profit ventures, and cottage industries. These ladies each have created more than just a single day job for themselves. So we have several topics that we've decided on ahead of time. And we encourage you, as Chandra said, to use the chat function to make comments or ask additional questions. If they're relevant to the topic that's at hand, we'll address them as they come in. I'll keep an eye on that. But if they're more general, we'll go back to them at the end, time permitting. So let's start by getting to know each of the panelists and some kind of starting points, if you will. So panelists, I'm going to ask you to please introduce yourself briefly and tell us, to get us started, what prompted you to start a new business? And I'm going to go alphabetically by last name here. And so I'm going to start with Cassandra.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cassandra, and I own a tattoo studio and art gallery it's now in Isla Morada in the Florida Keys. So that's the upper Keys. And it's based on environmental conservation. So my goal as a business is to raise awareness for our local reefs because these reefs are dying at rapid rates. And I wanted to be able to be the voice for them and link the gap between people that visit and, the locals and the science of it and why these reefs are important. So I offer art classes. I tattoo people, and when I tattoo them, I educate them on, say, if someone comes in and gets a sea turtle, I can tell them about the sea turtle hospital and give them the information for it and tell them about things that I see as a scuba diver, and what they can do to help sea turtles or whatever it may be that they're interested in. When I moved here from New York, I decided that I wanted to work for someone first and just to get myself established in the area, build some clientele. And the goal was to open up my own space eventually. But I needed to do that with time and money, save up and just get a feel for where I wanted to open. And I wanted to do that because the people that I was working for, I didn't really agree with how they ran things and how they treated people. And I'm one of those people who really care about what I'm offering, what I'm doing. I'm very conscious and, I just have a set of morals. So I decided that, doing this on my own was the way to go.
All right, outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jennifer, please.
So a quick bullet points about me. I'm very proud to boast that I am a fifth generation Florida native. I've lived in St. Pete for 30 years. I've got two grown daughters, ages 19 and 20. I've been married for 25 years. I have a Bachelor of Science degree from Eckerd College in marine science. So yay, Cassandra, for everything you're doing for the environment. And I co-manage Gold Star Mortgage here in downtown St. Pete with my husband, Nathan. And I also own a secondary business in the health and wellness space. What prompted me to start a new business, and I agree with Cassandra wholeheartedly that you gain so much by working for someone else in an industry first. It gives you an idea of what you like and what you don't like about the way they run a business. And you can constantly be looking at well, I don't like the way, they're handling this, or if this were my business, I would do this instead. And that was really what prompted me to start my own mortgage shop. Is I had worked for a major national bank for a lot of years, and I felt the need to support my mortgage clients in a way that wasn't being encouraged in the traditional banking space. That above and beyond level of customer service, quality over quantity, less spent in marketing dollars and more organic growth through relationship building. It wasn't really the business model that I was being asked to follow. And it went against where my heart felt like I needed to be to support people through the journey of buying a home and being able to utilize their equity over time. So aside from having more autonomy, it really was, it was a product of wanting to elevate a level of customer service delivery that I couldn't find through, a regional employer. So that kind of pushed me into
Excellent. But
setting up
I'm
my
gonna
own.
I'm gonna take you just a little bit further because you also have a second business that is focused on
I
health and
do.
wellness and that sort of thing. So tell us
Yeah,
just a quick bit about that.
a quick touch on that. And the reason for that was twofold. It came from a passion, much like Cassandra. I took a passion and I figured out how to monetize it. Something I was very passionate about. In my 30s, I came down with a very debilitating autoimmune disease, and I was out of pocket for several years on chemo and managing through that disease. And then I sought wellness through means other than what my rheumatologist was prescribing. And through that journey back to wellness, I ended up being an advocate for particularly women, middle-aged women that are overworked, burning their candle at both ends, and helping them identify strategies, and self-care management to stay well and not just survive each day through sheer exhaustion, but to thrive and still have energy for the things they love. So I do have a side job.
Side hustle.
Side hustle, yeah. I'm kind of in the maintenance stages of that. I recognized once I built that book of business, and I had a certain number of people that I was coaching and walking through that. I had to kind of cap it off for my sanity and to give them better attention. But it is now more passive income where I just check in with those folks. But I do get monthly income off of the regimens that they use based on my recommendations. And it's been nice over the years when my primary industry has lots of ebbs and flows, economically speaking, that I have that additional income coming in each month that doesn't need quite as much attention on the daily to maintain. And so that's been a really great way to diversify my income as well.
That's a really good point that I want us to keep in mind. And now I want to welcome Wendy. And Wendy, you've got so many businesses. I'm not sure how you're going to answer that last
Okay, you can
part.
hear.
We can.
Oh, okay. So first of all, I'm a thriver and a survivor. And most of my life I was a clinical nurse until I was diagnosed with a debilitating disease, which I already was doing nonprofit, various um, agencies, collaborations, health fairs, and which prompt me to do a nonprofit, which I've dissolved because a lot of my clients were only coming in for resources and they didn't want to share their stories with the new diagnoses. And, I did it as long as I could. And we had walks and I did so much presentations and I had a lot of testing through Walgreens. I had a partnership with Walgreens and CVS to come in and do immunization shots. And I was in with a pharmaceutical company and just a lot of stuff. So Also, I was a nail tech, and that propelled me to go ahead and get my license and stop being a um what's a good word for it? Uh, um oh, anyway, I propelled me to get my license to do hair instead of bootleg doing hair. That's what I was got my license, and then I did them both for a while. But now I'm doing hair full time since closing my not closing it, but putting it to the side. August 20th was the last time I did an event in Sarasota County, which I live in Sarasota County. And if I could just stop right there for 1 second, I'm the mother of 5 children. I birthed 3, and I have 2 additions. And my best friend is my mother and my father. And yeah, I have a small circle, but it works for me because I'm a loner, but I do enjoy people in groups when I'm with when I'm with them. And now fast forward, my food trailer last summer, it got really, really hot, even though I have stationary air conditioner. I have stand-up air conditioner, industrial fans, and then I have fans that shoot mist. And it just was so hot with all the propane and all the gas. So I kind of just tabled it for a minute. And then a week later, I went full-time on my job, and to get great benefits and the 401k, and y'all know the likes.
Yeah. This is going to be good fodder for some of the questions that are coming up after, right? Because this is not all about, hey, I started something, it was all wonderful and great and rosy. I want us to be able to share with the audience some of the things that really are truisms about going down this path. And so the next thing I want to talk about is when you decided what you wanted to do, starting a new business, and pick which one resonates with you the most, or perhaps parallel, and tell us who you reached out to for advice, and perhaps at the same time, what was the best advice that you received? And so I would ask of the panelists, which of you want to take that question first? All right, Jennifer.
Yeah, I reached out to a seasoned loan officer and mentor, one of the few successful women in that role at the time. When I started in the mortgage space in the late 1990s, there were very few women in that space. It was mostly older men, and I was not only female, but also very young. So I really sought out someone that was successful, that was also female. She was a single mom with 3 kids in private school, and that woman hustled, and she was a high producer month after month. And so I did, I sought her out and took her to lunch and picked her brain. And then we ended up doing that 3 or 4 more times. She was very generous with always giving me some time to run things, ideas by her. She had 2 major pieces of advice that I still carry with me 20 years later. I have it written on a note card that I tape to my desk. It's literally just that much of a mantra to me. And she taught me the 4 SWs. So the letter S and the letter W, and there are 4 of them. And I think this can apply to almost any industry. If you're out every day trying to connect with people, to have them engage with you over a product or service, some will, some won't. So what? Someone's waiting. And she taught me, in the world of sales, you can't dwell on the no's, because every yes is built on a mountain of no's. And some people will need your product and want to work with you. Some people won't need your product. It's not something that's a good fit for them. It doesn't matter. So what, right? Someone is out there waiting for what you have to offer. And you have to just keep making those connections until you find those people, and it becomes a numbers game. And she said, don't overthink it. You're going to be fed so many systems and programs and trainings. You could train your life away over the next 20 years, but it really just comes down to continuing to connect until you find the people that are waiting for what you have to offer. And that really has always stuck with me. And the other thing she reminded me is, don't fixate on the deals, the number of deals or transactions. She said, measure your success in the number of conversations you have, not in the number of closings you have. And the success will come. The conversations are what build relationships. That's what builds trust, connectivity. And ironically, some of our strongest business referral sources are people that never actually used us for a mortgage. They were people that consulted with us. We identified perhaps they didn't need a mortgage for what they were trying to achieve, but they were so grateful for the attention and expertise we provided that they continue to send people to us that do need that product or service. So it really does sometimes come down to the conversations instead of just being so transaction based. And those are the two things that have always stayed with me and have never failed me. Sometimes I forget them, but again, I always throw my little visual on my desk to remind me that you just have to kind of keep forging forward.
I love that. And so I made a note of that. The four SWs, some will, some won't. So what? Someone's waiting. I think that's a really like a proactive attitude of any sort of business that that someone might be thinking of. So I'm going to go to you next, Cassandra, and I'm going to ask who you reached out to for advice and what was the best advice that you received.
Okay, so when I moved to the Keys, and I came here, and some friends said, you got to become a member of the community. And I'm like, all right, I get that, fully. And that was the best advice from a friend. But I will say this, I from talking to friends and making friends down here and really becoming a part of the community, I had this incredible friend of mine who's a genius woman. Her name is Marlene, and she lives in Key West. And I always ask her for, business advice, because she's got her master's, she's, CEO of big company. And it's like always nice to have that one friend who's really smart. And so she recommended that I speak to this woman named Margie Smith. Now, some of you know.
Yep. Those of us that know Margie are nodding our heads.
Yes. So Margie Smith, if anyone she was formerly one of the representatives for the Small Business Development Center. And she was like my fairy godmother. She literally helped me jump through all of the hoops that I needed to get, my own business started, because, I owned a tattoo shop in New York for 8 years. Moving into Florida, completely different scenario, different rules, different taxes, different this, so many more things that I have to do as a business owner. And, she was the light in the dark for me. And she really helped me with an SBA loan. And, through her, I joined the BPW, I joined the Chamber of Commerce, and she really got me into the community. And even though I was already doing community events and putting myself out there, meeting the community and already donating before I even opened my business, a lot of people knew who I was, and that was great networking. So, I will say the chain of, making friends in the community, meeting Margie. Now I'm working with Bonnie Barnes, who's also amazing and always like, she's on top of it. She's like, hey girl, we need another meeting. Let's see what we can do to help you. And, these resources that you can obtain through who you meet and who, going to the Chamber of Commerce or going to a BPW meeting. It's the best opportunity. Like, it's so worth it to me because I make so many connections, and I reach out to other small business owners for advice all the time. So it's like, hey, somebody.
That's a good point.
experience. And the whole reason why I'm in the BPW is because I've been gaining so much knowledge from these connections I've made, and because of Margie Smith.
Excellent. And if Margie's watching, I just want to give a shout out to her. And Margie is the last person that I would expect to be giving advice to a tattoo artist, right? But these are the things that go deeper than what we expect on the surface.
Very
All
fun
right.
story, quick. She had me wear a pink cardigan to the first Chamber of Commerce meeting to make an impression. And then once she realized how the community accepted me, she was like, no more pink cardigans for you.
Show off your colors, right? All
Yeah.
right. So Wendy, so your turn. Who did you reach out to for advice? And you can pick any number of the businesses that you started, but when you decided you wanted to do something and open a business, who did you reach out to, and what was the best advice that you got?
Okay, so actually, while I was vendoring before starting the business, I had some of the members from the redevelopment center in Sarasota. They kept reaching out to me, and they kept telling me that they had these grants and I could get a building and this and that and this. And at that time, I was married, and yeah, it didn't work then. But later, after everything was said and done, and I reached out to the redevelopment center. Now that I was single, and choices could be made a little bit better now. And I had already did a business application. You know, you have to go and say everything you want, get your menu, everything concise and precise to the dollar. And I did that. And just so happened, it was under new management, and everything just went really well. My whole plan was just perfect, and we worked together, and I was approved. And some of the members from the chamber's office, some of the commissioners, they reaching out to me, telling me about this grant, that grant, shooting me emails. And I mean, it just fell in my lap, and I took advantage of it. I didn't waste any time. The lingerie business, some of that stuff, because I sell compression garments. Everybody wants the futon and body snatch. Yeah, so all of that. That's what happened to me. And my best advice is I was given, whatever you be in life, be the best at it.
Hmm.
Just period. So plain and just so simple, but yeah. And I've tried and try again. Perseverance, no matter what.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing from that is authenticity.
Absolutely.
And so I'm hearing that from Cassandra with the things that were important to her, and also from Jennifer, that the ethics and the things that are important to you behind the scenes. And Wendy, what you're talking about really just makes me feel like authenticity is a big piece to being successful. So
Yeah.
so we talked about kind of getting started and who did you reach out to. So what I am curious, and we talked about kind of best practices, what I want to explore next is what were the challenges that you faced early on, starting out or early on, and how did you deal with those? And I'm going to start with Cassandra first on this one.
Okay. One of my first challenges before I even opened was I had the COVID EIDL loan, and I had received it in New York. And I only took a small percentage of the loan amount that was given to me. So you're not allowed to use that money for moving your business. So I only took a little bit to help my business stay alive in New York. And then I moved in 2020. So when I finally went to open my own business after 2 years, they were like, I said, I wish I had this money. Can I take out a loan? And this is when I was talking to Margie. And she was like, well, you still have your EIDL loan. If you didn't take out all of that money, you can actually use those funds still, and you don't have to apply for it. So one of those challenges was they kept red flagging my account, and it took a few months to actually get through it, but she persisted in having her, finally get that through, that I got the rest of my funds 2 days before they ran out of money. So thank you, Margie. Again, you're a godsend. And so funding was an issue. Licensing, there are tons of rules in Monroe County specifically now. You need a license for each individual business that you do. So health department license, and then a Monroe County business license. But I have to have 3 business licenses because I'm a tattoo shop, I'm a tattoo artist, and I teach art classes. So 3 different taxes that I have to pay every year.
Yeah, so same brick and mortar, 3 businesses, which is a little bit different than Wendy necessarily having several standalone different kind of businesses that you would expect to have different licenses for. But I'm also going to call out the fact that you're still referencing the fact that you had connections of people that would help you figure out those ways. And so keep going, Cassandra.
Yeah, of course. One of the challenges here in the Keys is Islamorada is an incorporated village, which means they can say yay or nay as to what comes into the village. Now, originally, when I went to open my shop, I was told no by Islamorada because I was the negative affiliation to tattoos. They have a rule that says no tattoo shops. So I had to open in Tavernier, which is a couple miles north of Islamorada. Now we're going to fast forward to, I had a bad landlord. Man, make sure you know, if you're ever signing a lease, a commercial lease, have a lawyer look over your lease.
Oh, that's golden.
Make sure you have an inspection on the building, because I ended up in a building where I had to leave the lease early because of mold and because of a faulty fire alarm system. And I had some really pressuring men who were aggressive towards me that I had to deal with, but I wasn't scared to leave, and I ended up leaving because Islamorada finally said yes to me on being able to come into the village. And that was a big hurdle to overcome because for 24 years, tattoo shops have not been allowed to be here.
Wow.
So, but my perseverance in being a member of the community, and so I donate 10% of my sales to local reef restoration, and since 2020 I've raised $9,350, and the goal is to hit 10,000 by the end of the year. And when I had my grand opening here at this new location in Islamorada, I had over 80 people come to my studio, and the majority of that was the Islamorada Chamber of Commerce, and they were extremely supportive. So
nice.
Definitely.
Nice. Now, Cassandra, I have to say, full disclosure, I do not have any tattoos, nor do I expect to get any, but I would make a donation for you to be able to reach that goal for the reef restoration. So please share with us later offline how we might be able to support that goal.
Absolutely.
And
thank you.
So next I want to jump to Wendy on this one of what were the challenges that you faced starting out or early on, and how did you deal with them? And you could pick, I don't know, you could pick the salon, you could pick the food truck, you could.
Oh, okay. So I initially started the business for the food business in like mid 2019. My challenge was when all the paperwork was done, the food trailer paid for. Well, first I had to buy COVID. When everything was ready, COVID hit. So I had to pay separately for the trailer. Then they built everything in it, all the different appliances and everything. But because it was COVID and everybody decided they wanted to redecorate this and redecorate that, there was no wood, there was no steel. So that put me off 9 months, and I was going AWOL. So that was my biggest challenge. Then learning through Sunbiz, after, you got it, I'm a sole proprietor, LLC. Then I had to get state license, city license, panhandle, not panhandle, panhandle license for to be able to cook. Then I had to get a county license, not to mention on the other side, with the hair, I have to get that license. Then you got to do CEUs but yeah, that was a bit challenging for me to wait instead of the ordinarily 12 weeks that it would take for them to build a trailer, and then to go so far into 9 months. So that was driving me crazy, and I was very powerless, and it didn't feel good. And lastly, the other challenging thing was to drive a food trailer back from Tampa, and I never drove it with my F-150.
All right, that is an unusual and unique challenge. Absolutely. I love it. So Jennifer, I'm going to go to you next on this question. So what were the challenges that you faced starting out or early on, and how did you deal with them?
Well, in my industry, we have non-compete clauses. So one of the first challenges I had when I branched off from this major national bank that I had worked with for many years, I would have gotten in a lot of trouble had I reached out to any of my previous 500 clients in my database to let them know that I've moved to opening my own shop, and that for all of their future mortgage needs and referrals, they can find me here. And that felt a little debilitating at first, because 80% of our business was coming from referrals from previous customers. But I didn't want to break the non-compete clause agreement for fear of losing my new licensing that I had to set up, because of the contract I broke with my previous employer. So that we had to get creative. I mean, and it's interesting. St. Pete's not that small of a town, but people found us, and you rely.
I know that I did.
You found us. You rely on some of the basics. Now, we did our business partners. We were still able to reestablish relationships with. It was just clients that, the actual applicants for the loan we couldn't reach out to. So our business partners, our financial planners, our realtors, our home inspectors and title agents, those folks really kept us going and helping to spread the word and help with some of our initial marketing to launch the new brand and the new branch. So that was key. But I also had aside from the licensing, which I had always worked under an umbrella license of a major company, so having to deal with some of those pain points like the others have mentioned. But it was the technology learning curve for us, because we had always had the luxury of using all of the technology infrastructure that our company had provided us. And now we had to make decisions on, okay, well, we need on-site paper shredding services. We need antivirus software, malware protection. We need software for information protection because we're working with very sensitive client information. We needed a program for a client interface so that customers could send us documents securely through a paperless environment. Contact management software, all of that had been provided to us from our previous employers. So to have to start that from the ground up, and just the cost benefit analysis of we're on a limited budget, but we want the most bang for our buck, and what software can we do without, what is imperative to meet the guidelines of our industry. And so there was a lot of navigating through those waters that was not fun. And those challenges still exist because the technology changes, and when you've been in a space as long as I have, just what validates your company as being legitimate has changed. When I first started in the 90s, you needed to be listed in the yellow pages. I'm
Oh,
really dating myself.
gosh, remember?
And
Yeah.
in the 2000s, it was, oh, you need to have a website. People are going to look you up on the web and you need to have a presence there. And now then it was Facebook. Well, they don't have a Facebook page. I'm not sure that they're really a credible company. And now it's Instagram with our Gen Z and younger millennial clients. Everyone, each generation
Yeah.
looks to find you or to establish that you're a legitimate business in the community through a different platform. And so we've had to keep up with all of that over the
And
years.
that's a perfect segue into the next question that I was going to ask is what challenges do you still face, right? And so you've kind of led into that, but so keeping up with technology, um, keeping up with expectations from a visibility point of view. What other kinds of challenges do you still face, Jennifer? And I'm going to go backwards in
Yeah.
the lineup on this one.
For us personally, it's when to scale our business and add employees and when to stick with where you are. The mortgage industry is very cyclical, and it's not seasons within a 12-month cycle. It can be 2 and 3 year cycles of highs and lows where volume will ebb and flow based on economic factors, mortgage rates, etc. You want to scale up thoughtfully for what you foresee might be busy times coming, knowing that you still have to sustain that payroll when the well starts to dry up again. And we have learned the hard way, with the housing crash in 2008, that came just a few years after the refi boom of 2004.
Yeah.
We had a full staff, front desk receptionist, transaction coordinator, loan processor on site. And, we had to lay off everyone, and it was devastating.
Mm-hmm.
And as deep as we thought our coffers were to be able to withstand those highs and lows, we just didn't have the fallback plan that was necessary to keep that payroll going for as long as we would have needed. And we've been very cautious ever since. We might add a junior loan officer here and there. We do a lot more contract work. We'll hire processors and closers as contract employees, 1099. That way they can also contract with other branches like us and get more income from more sources instead of being solely reliant on our personal production. And that takes the pressure off of us, and it gives them a little bit more stability as well. So we have changed that business model over the years.
And but before I toss this over to Wendy and Cassandra to carry on the same topic, I think every industry has to be aware of economic cycles, right? And so Jennifer's in an industry, everybody's been hearing about interest rates lately, and is that going to be like the thing or whatnot? But when we talk about Wendy's talked about opening in the pandemic, right? Like you can have the best laid plans, and then all of a sudden something happens outside your control that impacts people's spending, right? And so Cassandra, you are in an industry where that is, in my opinion, and perhaps I'm naive, but that is entirely discretionary spending.
Yeah.
And so yeah, those are in those capacities, and Jennifer's been impacted by massive economic factors, and so I think those are real, tangible challenges to consider. And so Cassandra, I'm going to go to you next because I elicited a response from you, and then I'll come to Wendy. So where we are is, what challenges are you still facing?
So exactly what she was saying, economic impact, the economy right now for luxury spending, just that extra cash. It's hard, especially being in a tourist area. So this area is, tourism. And, not just in my industry as a tattoo artist, but a lot of tattoo artists all across are like, hey, they're trying to come up with creative ways to get work in the door. And, I actually travel across the country to tattoo, and I just came back from New York so I could make enough money to pay my bills down here because it's slow. And I have to keep up with social media. I have to, I'm not going to dance in front of a camera like a lot of people do or do silly things, but I have to, keep posting my work and just keep feeding it. And it's a lot of work to do to keep up with it. But, it's what we have to do, to improvise for what's currently going on in the economy, even if it's, lowering our rates, offering deals. Like I just came out with a locals discount card to try to bring more locals in the door. It really makes you think creatively to come up with these different things as to how you're going to get that business in your door. And you have to think outside the box, because if you think in the box, you ain't gonna have a box no more.
Yeah. So question for you, Cassandra, what is your local population?
Not a
I'll
lot.
put you on the spot on that.
Yeah,
I know that St. Petersburg has 260,000 people. But I'm just curious what your full-time resident population is in general in terms of your ability to capitalize on local versus having to attract tourism, which is a totally different thing.
More than like 25,000, because we're in the Keys.
Islamorada has 7,059 people in Islamorada.
Okay, there you go.
Marathon has 8,000, and then it's debatable whether we count snowbirds.
Right. So that's a really interesting thing. And yes, Teresa, I see your comment, ebbs and flows depending on the year. But in terms of talking about how do you establish a business that is supported by your locals versus one that depends entirely on tourism or transient population, that's a really valid thing. But Cassandra, what I wanted to say to you is, I know you don't have to do silly things on TikTok, but have you taken your reef work, your scuba diving and your reef work to social?
I haven't. I mean, I share it, and a lot of people know, like in the community, like my business is 50% community, 50% tourism, and it fluctuates. But a lot of people know about it. I have, all my Lionfish Derby awards, and
nice.
A lot of people that come in here, they ask me about scuba diving. So, social media wise, it's really hard to balance having a personal life, posting on social media,
running a business,
drawing.
Yeah.
I'm very occupied, so it's hard for me to do the social media, and I'm currently paying someone to work on it for me, but it's really hard, and it is a good idea.
Yeah. Now, before I go to Wendy, I just want to make a note to the marketing and membership chairs that I know are watching this. There needs to be some sort of segment on Lionfish Derby. Right, because that just sounds really cool as a feature. So Wendy, I want to pose to you the same the same question, which we've kind of covered, but having heard the other panelists, what are the challenges that you still face? Like where you are right now, we know that you have put the food truck kind of in a little hiatus. You're focusing on different things. What are the challenges that you still face in making your businesses a success and allowing you to feel successful?
Well, right now, first and foremost, I have to respect my body and my disease. But other than that, I recently just moved to a new city. So I'm really just trying to fill it out right now and find a location where it'll be suitable to set up, and basically go from there and try to work in the middle, in between my already full-time job. Yes, that's about it for me.
So that is the perfect segue to the next question, which was what resources would you recommend, right? You as panelists, what resources would you recommend? And I think now you have the opportunity, two of you panelists have the opportunity to also make some recommendations to Wendy, who's in a new spot, who needs to kind of reinvent or get acclimated with new resources. So if you had to say like right off the top of your head, what resources would you absolutely go to in a new community? And Jennifer, I'll go with you.
I mean, I'm kind of a traditionalist. I would always reach out to my local Chamber of Commerce first because they're just such a wealth of resources. And usually, their staff are in the know on people that might be in that space already. In my youth, I was really intimidated about approaching people that were already successful in the space where I wanted to be. I always looked at them at competition, and I assumed that they would look at me as competition. So I think if I were to do it over again, I would reach out to those people more often. People don't become successful and have a big following if they're jerks. You typically, if
Fair
you're
enough.
respectful of their time, they're going to, and of course you need to be respectful and make sure you're not hogging it. But I would reach out to people in your new space that are already in an industry that you're thinking about expanding and just picking their brain. Okay, I'm in a new town. I've done this before somewhere else. What are the challenges you face here? And, just kind of have that open dialogue. Looking back, I realized that would have been extremely valuable, but I was always afraid to approach people that were vying for the same client base as I
established
was.
and successful. Yeah.
But
just
any kind of networking group that has a directory where you could go through on their online website. Here in the Tampa Bay area, we've got, of course, BPW, but also, we have Working Women of Tampa Bay here, BNI chapters, but, the chamber and then the women's chamber, just to see who are already in those spaces that I might be able to shadow for a day. And just say, hey, can I just be that quiet person in the corner, just kind of taking it all in and seeing what a day in the life looks like for you here.
Yeah. And before I turn that over to Cassandra, I want to say that sometimes industry specific networking can be really valuable. And so to Jennifer's point of reaching out to those folks that are established in the business, the ones who are really good and ethical and awesome are going to share with you. Same as in my residential real estate sales environment. And Cassandra, I have to imagine that there's an alliance of tattoo artists, right? Like there has to be. So take that away.
There's a good, in the tattoo industry, there is a lot of competition. There's some people that have their old school values, and there's people that are like, yeah, I totally want to help you out. And it's good to find those people. And we find those people at tattoo conventions. However, locally, I will say I highly recommend the Small Business Development Center. I couldn't be more grateful for all the assistance they've ever given me. But also at the same time, the women who are in this group are part of the BPW, and have found so many resources right here in this group. And I believe that the Upper Keys has one of the largest chapters, and it's amazing how much of a community it is in itself. And I can go to a meeting and be like, hey, I actually really need to talk to somebody. I'm going to go to this meeting and network and try to find, okay, how do I find this person? And it's great. I couldn't recommend it more. But between the SBDC, the SBA, the Chamber of Commerce, all great resources.
And so what I was going to ask you is the resource center that you were talking about, is that an SBA resource or is it Chamber? Because I know in St. Petersburg we have some downtown partnership organizations and some EDCs, and we also have some small business corporations that are outside of the city and of the chamber. So just a question there.
I believe that the Small Business Development Center is a part of FIU.
Oh, maybe? Okay. All right.
And it's state. Well, the SBDC at FIU is here in Florida. The Small Business Development Center is a part of the Small Business Association, and it's, as far as I'm aware, I mean, I know they have it in New York. So wherever you are, you can look up the SBDC and get that.
And I would, if I can back us away from the acronyms for just a second.
Yep.
I'm betting that for anybody that's listening, that if you search small business resources, that it's going to connect you in your community with whoever's got the line on that, because I think it's going to be different from one to the other. Now, I want to take us to one last question before we.
You didn't allow, excuse me, you didn't allow me an opportunity.
I know, because I was kind of rolling into that in a different way. But Wendy, please take it away.
That's kind of crazy. But anyway, so yeah, I also would go to the Women's Resource Center, Commissioner's Office, and again, redevelopment, and also utilize social media. You know, that's the best thing. But in cooking, pretty much speaks for itself. Once you start cooking and you get those aromas in the air, you got to just, you know, go from there, you know, and hopefully they like it. Not everybody will like it, but, you know, you use every resource you have, you know.
Excellent. And Wendy, did you seek out opportunities for groups to with the food truck in particular? Did you seek out opportunities to participate in group activities, or were you doing pop-ups? Like, I've been chasing a food truck recently in my area that took over the recipe from Coney Island, chili dogs, if any of you are familiar with that. And like, people are chasing them across town as opposed to going to a place where there's a lot of food trucks. How did you seek out those opportunities? Just that's a personal aside.
Okay, well, what I did was I went back to a spot where me and my ex used to vendor before the divorce. And once I started on the property, it got going, business got going so good to the property owner started charging me monthly. So then I had to get liability insurance and commercial insurance, of course. And I just rented on their property. Plus a lot of local colleges, churches, you know, they would always ask me to come and do events for them.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a good time.
Good. All right. So as we get towards the end of our time, I just want to ask each of you if you could share a final bit of advice to those in the audience or those who are going to listen after the fact, who are thinking about starting their own business. And I want you to think about everybody in the various stages, like our audience. It could be young people looking to pursue a dream. It could be folks with a 9-to-5 job, like many of you have and want to do something on the side, or it could be an encore career, right? Which is relevant to many of our members. So if there was a piece of advice that you could give to wrap us up, what would that be? And Wendy, I'm going to start with you.
I would say believe in yourself, no matter what. Just keep going and don't give up, you know. And of course, no matter what industry you're in, there's always going to be some conflict, you know. Just keep going, perseverance.
All right. Cassandra.
I think that we need to be persistent. And we need to follow our morals and our heart. And we need to, you know, if this is something that we're really determined to do, be determined to do it. I come from, you know, a tiny little house in a poor town, upstate New York. And I was always told as a kid, you're never going to amount to anything and you're never going to go anywhere. And here I am, a small business owner in the Florida Keys, one of the most expensive places to live in the United States.
Yes, that's true.
I am incredibly proud of myself. So keep the faith, keep the belief, be determined, be courageous, be open to learning, be a sponge, really put your full self into it and be authentic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Those are good words. Jennifer?
I don't know. I feel like we need to end on that, but
yeah.
Those are great words of advice from both Wendy and Cassandra. Mine is a little bit more practical. It's not quite as inspirational, but I would just say it was very valuable for me to work for someone else before I worked for myself. Just to get the basic logistics down of how that industry runs, the compliance, the workflows, the systems. And even if you work for someone you don't like, you're still going to gain as much out of that on knowing you want to establish your business. You know, that's the what not to do or how not to treat a client if you think you can do it better. But it just gives you some sort of foundation. I just feel like that's paramount, you know, to being able to start on a very efficient foot, because time is money. And
Yeah.
when you're self-employed, you know, it's a different game. You know, every minute counts. You want to get your efficiencies set up as quickly as you can.
Now I'm going to shake it up because since you all answered that so expediently, there's one more thing that I want to ask you as we wrap. And that is, what's the best thing about owning your own business? I'm going to do Wendy, Cassandra, and Jennifer. Wendy, what's the best thing about owning your own business?
Best thing is meeting my client, sharing with them, but also I'm accounts receivable and I'm account payable. I mean,
That's great.
Yeah, all the money. I can see it. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Cassandra?
The best thing about being my own boss is that I can do what I want. You know, if I don't agree with something, then I don't do it. If I want to do it, I do it. And I'm grateful I get to make people happy. That's pretty cool. I enjoy bringing smiles. So that's one of the best parts about being my own boss is that I can do what I want and make people happy, and I ain't got nobody tell me otherwise.
Right? It's great. Jennifer?
For me, it was all about time flexibility. I feel so grateful that in an industry that is traditionally 9 to 5, I've never had to restrict myself to working 9 to 5. And I may work 10 to 7 or take a Thursday off and work a Saturday instead, but that's my choice and I control my schedule. And it allowed me to be more present for my girls as they were growing up. It allowed me to not miss out on social opportunities that were important to me, weddings, funerals, you know, all the big life events. I feel very fortunate to have the flexibility to be able to control, you know, when my clients get me and when I get my time to myself and when my family gets me. It's been great to have that luxury.
Perfect. Perfect. Excellent remarks. And I want to thank you so much, panelists, for joining us and audience members for making the time to listen. And those of you that are going to listen after, we hope that this session has been valuable and inspires some of you to follow your dreams of starting a new business. So please watch your emails and visit www.bpwfl.org for more of these lessons learned and other webinars. And so thank you and good night.
Good night. Thanks for sharing, ladies.